Hello and welcome back. I am going to continue talking about creating a Mugen character from scratch, and we have this character called Green Guy, and I just want to go through these preliminary steps here. Everything except characters here. And I'm just going to make a sample game here. For Green Guy, and I want to also resize him because I finished up the indexing and I didn't really explain it, and he also was a very large character, much larger than he needs to be. And I'm gonna go ahead and borrow Mr. Kung Fu Man, and he is a character that is included with Mugen, and he's the perfect template for creating your own character. Experts in Mugen do not need any kind of template at all, or they would start with a much simpler template. But if you just want to learn to make a character fast, you can start with Kung Fu Man. And when I was upscaling my characters, I was really much more concerned with the art elements, and so I really appreciated this simple way to start a character. So I'm going to make one that I'm just going to keep as Kung Fu Man, and then this is going to be for Green Guy. Okay. And also I noticed that when I made that last movie, the audio started to lag, and that probably really complicated all of the things that I was trying to do at the end with the indexing, because it just lagged and it sort of hung there. What has to happen with the index is you end up having to juggle some of the colors around in order to create a transparency layer, and then you have to switch it with another color. I'll go through all that in just a moment, and I will make it very clear how to do that. I learned how to do that one time, and then I was using it, and then I had to use that method again, and I had actually forgotten, and I had to figure it out all over again. So it is kind of complicated, so I'd like to just go over it very slowly. Okay, so I've got this all ready to go. And actually, I want to put this game in here. This is kind of complicated. What I'm doing right here is I want to get a PNG color table for Green Guy. So I know I'm talking about a bunch of different things. It's because okay, this green guy is too big. However, I just want to get his color table, and I don't actually know how of a better way to do it. Because now, I'm not going to keep this, we're going to do this somewhere else. But now, if I open this up, I can get his color table, and this is easier to work with, and also now if I have this PNG palette, I can also load new sprites in without a transparency layer. Alright, so now that green guy is indexed here, and I've got the correct colors for him, I can go to RGB, and RGB color means there are lots of more subtle colors that aren't going to become a problem. The index is really strict. The index is like you know, a military superior who's just going to want everything to be exacting, and it has to be a certain way, and that's it. The RGB color is more like, you know, some hippie where it's just like, well, that's cool. I mean, you know, yeah, we can have like, you know, tons of subtle colors. I mean, not a big deal. So yeah, the index is incredibly strict, and if you do something wrong, you really pay for it, and you have to, then you end up having to redo a lot of work. So I went to RGB because now if I resize, it's going to be a lot more smooth, as opposed to if I resize an index, it's going to be more jagged because everything's more exacting there. So this is still a really giant character, however, should be easier to work with. And now this is the cool thing. I can go to this PNG palette that I made, and now he's automatically got a transparency. Resized. Okay, great. So we've got him. So now if I go to the sample game, I'm gonna have to change all this stuff. For now, I'm just gonna do this. I'm just replacing one sprite. I'm gonna have to, yeah, actually I better do that. I better just do it. I don't remember how to do it. There we go. Okay, here we go. And I want the low axis here. It kind of doesn't matter because we end up having to move things all the time, and especially if you have different colors in the game, different characters in the game, excuse me, you find out that a lot of them don't have the exact same axis, and you end up having some characters that are like slightly higher up on the ground, and sometimes you can use that to your advantage, like if you want a character to be like a certain scale, but then if they're a little farther back, maybe they'll look more appropriate in perspective. But that's, you know, that's like some really complicated stuff that you maybe don't want to worry about. I'm making everything like very complicated, but then at the same time you kind of have to learn all this stuff anyway. So I mean, at least now you'll have it. So here he is, and now I can, now that he's here, that's the one we want. We want Mugen 1.0, and I think I can change this here. This is why I should have done it in the first place. And now that he's here, I guess the other thing I should do is I should go here and I should change all of these. And just to make it more complicated, the C and S, or constants, can be, or the common is what I'm trying to say, can be something that you end up altering for an individual character. Then you can do even more with their animations. So I think that's fine. Let's see. So now, thank you. I'll just put this. Okay, so that's cool, and then I think I just take these off because I don't have any intros for them. And aha. Okay, very good. Okay, so I said that I would review the index. So I will make a projectile for green guy. And that is really fun with the lasso. I'm just going to make him a fireball. I don't want to make it like that. I want to make it like this. I'll rotate it. It's like a person. Yeah, what the heck. Okay. Start over. I wanted to do something a little cooler than that. There we go. I was really excited. I tend to rush things. Okay. So I think this is so fun because all I have to do for this is I go like that, and that's his fireball, and then if I create a duplicate layer, and then I change the hue to that, and then I go to the airbrush here, now we've got some nice color there, and then I can go back to the lasso and then create effect. I'll merge this down. And then if I go like that, then I get like a lot of crazy color in there. Okay. So that's fine. We can do a lot more, and plus also easy way to make an outline around these is just create a black layer, and I like to give it a blur, and then I can just move it a little bit, and then move it a little bit, and move it a little bit. Oop, my bad. Wrong one. Why does it keep doing that? I've had that happen recently. Okay, so fireball. It's probably way too big. Save, just in case. Alright, I am going to index this fireball and I'm going to explain everything that I am doing. You need to create a transparency layer, and you need that layer to be a color that is not in the sprite. In this case, like a blue-violet should be fine. And plus, I just like to do that for a fireball just because it looks cool. And so after I create that layer, I'm going to want to merge everything together. And then I'm going to want to turn this from RGB back to index. So I go to mode, indexed color, and then I go to local selective, and it's on 64 colors. I hit OK, so now it's indexed here, but this is not going to work in Mugen. This is going to create a fireball with a purple square around it. So I need to fix that. I need to take this color, that's the purple, and I need to Control-C that and put it in the lower right hand corner. Okay, and then I got to take this and just make it a different color that's not in there. So in this case, green should work fine. And now I save this palette as sample fireball palette. Okay. So now that's the first part, and then the second part is I have to take this out of index color back to RGB. So now it's back the way it was before I did anything, but I have this other palette saved that I just created. So now I'm going to go back to, then I have to go to custom, and then I have to load this palette I just made, sample fireball palette. Okay. Okay, and then I have to save this as a PCX file, which is the way you want to start a sprite in Mugen. However, once you get one PCX file of the palette that you want, then you can get the PNG palette the way I did earlier. So. Okay. Oh, that's right. That's fine. Okay, so now the fireball is in here. Since I made the sprite really big, this is kind of incidental. However, I'm going to want to go here, and I'm going to want to reduce the scale here of the character. That's something you would have to work out. There's also another way you could do it, which would be the local coordinates. And with Kung Fu Man 720, where you notice that his resolution is a lot higher, but that his scale is seemingly the same, there are local coordinates that designate him to be at a higher resolution, but at the same size as other pixelated sprites. I haven't dabbled in that too much, so the other cool thing that I was really excited about today is that I can do some more palettes for Mr. Green Guy. there's a really complicated way to make palettes in Fighter Factory, and I'm going to use that as well later on to fine-tune things. In this palette creator, you can select colors here like this, and then change them like this. Yeah, that worked pretty well. It doesn't usually. So there you go. You can have a lot of different colors like this. In fact, we could just do that one. So I want to make this a palette for him. We can make this his second palette. Make this his first palette. I went to this third icon, which creates the palettes, kind of sets them in stone. It gets kind of messed up sometimes. Sometimes you have to delete all your palettes and do them over again, because if one is put in the wrong order, or I don't know, it's all very confusing, and you really just have to try it, and through trial and error you won't go crazy. But it's good to have everything backed up, and it's good to save everything on a flash drive too, and it's probably good to do more than that even, but I just try to save everything on a flash drive. So I wanted to just create some more palettes for him here. That's kind of similar to the others, but if I go to mode and I go to color table, and then I can just save this as that gives you some idea about that. And the other last thing that I wanted to do today, I wanted to start cleaning him up. So let's see here. FC for cleaning. Go back to RGB. So once again with Mr. Green Guy, I would like to create a lot of outlines for him. Oh, I forgot to move that and make it easier to work with, because I worked on that really fast. That's like way too much. I think that's way too much, so I'm going to take the magic wand and I'm going to start cutting it a little bit. I don't have his layer on it, so it's not going to hurt him. When I was trying to do large volumes of sprites, I was pretty mean to him. I would just do way too much of the black layer, then I'd like cut them all down at once, and then I'd have to clean them all up more. So anyway, the one other thing that I want to talk about that I think is really important is I want to start cleaning them up upside down, because then I can really focus on, like, you know, like, even though I've drawn for many years, still neglect feet sometimes. Certain things like that can make a big difference, and it's just like gives you a different look of things. We did all these highlights like without even thinking about it, so I'm just going to keep cleaning him up. And another thing that you can do that I think is, this is just for fun, but when I want to clean up a lot of sprites, I just do the hue to 180 sometimes, and all the way to 180, because then I look at the colors a different way. And yeah, there's this artifact of blue that's not supposed to be here. That's from the transparency color. There are issues with that, and there are things you can do to circumvent that, but I'm not really too worried about it. I mean, we end up having to clean up these larger sprites anyway. Oh, yeah, you know, in the last video I was talking about also that I said at the end that I didn't want to add white, and the reason is that if you add white when he's in RGB mode, it's going to create, like, unless you do it without feathering, but see, like all these little colors here, like the pastel purples that are here, the index is not going to tolerate those. The index is going to say that all of those are gray or blue. It's not going to like them, and it's not going to accept that you want them to be light purple, because as far as the index is concerned, there is no light purple in the color table, and it'll just make it something else. So when I want to add a highlight that's white, I would only want to do that in the index, and I've got this PNG palette. So now if I add white in PNG mode, it's just white. So, and that's not going to confuse the index. So I can add some white to the hair and to his shoulders and to his knuckles, etc. Maybe on the clothing, it might not look right though. Okay. And then, you know, if you were doing larger numbers of sprites. And the other thing I wanted to mention is, like, it may seem daunting to do a lot of sprites like this, but the more of them that you have, you can start copying and pasting parts onto one and then the other. And also, what's so strange is sometimes you'll copy and paste like a certain number of elements together, and you'll end up with poses or moves that you didn't even think of. And sometimes it's really synergistic and really organic in a cool way if you have enough material that you've already done. So let's see. I think that's pretty much everything. Okay, so I didn't really clean him up very much. However, what do you think, green guy? You want to be in the game? I can put you in the game. Let's see if it worked. Okay, and this is a step that I have had to go through many a time with the characters, and that is where I go to the second icon here in Sprites, and I am replacing the existing character with the one I just cleaned up. There he is, with the outline layer and still with a lot of artifacts. So not to further confuse things, but for his standing animation, we're only going to want this one sprite for now. And let's see how I did. Oh, well, I'm glad that happened, because that happens a lot. these are all supposed to be HQ, and I also have to go out and do that in the folder, and then it should work. Okay, so that should work, and then I want his folder. Let's see. Aha! I didn't change all of these. No, what the heck? No, I don't want to rename it. I just want to do that. Oh. Why is this here? What just happened? Let me see if it works now. I don't know why there's that other one. Alright. I think he looks like a Dragon Ball Z character. That was not intentional. Anyway, right now, we don't have the palette set up. So it's character versus same color character, which is actually a coveted code in the Super Nintendo version of Street Fighter 2, I should say. So that would be probably the palettes are probably something I want to handle later, but that's a lot of confusing things. I hope that helps. Also, I made him green, but I think I can give him a normal skin tone too. I just was wondering if I could. His human incarnation. Too many colors of these. Uh-huh. Yeah, and I didn't have to start him green. But, okay, cool. That's great. What did I just do? No, what did I just do? Oh, that is what I want to do. Okay. Okay. I don't know when I'll be able to make another one of these, so I will do one more thing that I was going to do, and that is I'll show you how to upscale a sprite. Let's see here. That's not where they are. Here they are. These sprites were ripped by someone named Ray, so thank you to Ray. It is a hassle to rip sprites. I had to kind of rip sprites for some of the characters in the game that I was making. Although, because I was upscaling them, I didn't have to actually get all the pixels correct. I just was basically taking a screenshot and then, you know, taking the area of the screen that I wanted and then upscaling the sprite from there, so I didn't have to be so precise as they have to be in ripping. So Lena? Oh, your name was Lena? I'm sorry. Are you Lena? Okay. This is pretty much just like the last part of when I was working on Green Guy. I got to the point where I was doing detailed stuff, and the way that I finally was interpreting sprites, oh, that's even too small. Probably more like 9, huh? Okay. As you can see, you can sort of see like the cute shape of her face, but there isn't like really any detail to work with, so you'd really just kind of have to interpret it the best way you can. So that's where it becomes like a real challenge to try to do so. Yes, this really is how to upscale sprites. It's really a pain. But if I had upscaled a lot of Lena sprites, I would know what I was doing, and I would also want to look at how these are actually done, because I don't really know a whole lot about the character. I love the Valis games, but don't actually know about this character. So yeah, there isn't really a secret to upscaling. I mean, it's actually just kind of a pain. So that's the big secret. It's kind of just really hard. When I was upscaling these sprites, there was a news story about a woman who had painted over a religious painting, and of course the first thing I thought was, oh, that's directed at me. That's because that's what a terrible job I'm doing at upscaling. It's like I'm ruining some classical masterpiece with my complete lack of skill, and perhaps so, but that's you know, something to improve upon. Sorry, a little paranoid humor there for you. This is actually harder than drawing green guy. This sprite is so well done. You find that some of these retro sprites, if you really study them, the draftsmanship is just insanely good. And that's why I think it is a service to posterity if more and more of them are upscaled. So through these two techniques you could make your own kind of HD remix of any kind of old game. And you should feel that it is your duty and obligation, because these old sprites are so good and they have a lot to teach. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Something. So that is kind of oh, you know what I did? I did it right on the same layer. See? Okay, there's a way I can fix that too. Go like this. Go like that. Go to threshold. Yes. So now we've got her. Now we just have to erase the white. We got her. I made a lot of mistakes today, and I'm glad I did, because you all got to see a lot of other stuff. So I already basically showed you how to color. I would do the same thing here. I would just recolor her. So that's Lena, and then this is our Lena. So, oh yeah, we'll roll that on so you can see. So, and a lot of this, when I would probably be cleaning up these sprites and figuring out some of the things that I want to fix. Also, just another incidental, but I don't know what one of the buttons you press on a tablet helps you make a straight line. The top button on the left of the Wacom lets you make straight lines. Some of you might be really good at a program like Illustrator. You might not even need a tablet, and you might not even need Photoshop. You might just be doing everything with a mouse, you know, like on an Apple computer. That's possible too. Like I said, I mean, you can improvise. There's probably a lot of different ways to make sprites. It's just a really fun hobby. It can get really difficult, and it can be really fun too. So hopefully this has given you some means of starting. And good luck. Thank you for watching.